Hey, it's Kubo. So I've been a little delayed in editing this video, but here it is. We're going to compare Autopilot version 10 with version 9 on that fast winding road, which is California State Route 79 in Southern California. And I'll put the link to the full unedited drive at the end of this video, but let's jump into the analysis. And the first section was an area where V8 actually went off the road and onto the shoulder. So first let's take a look at how version 9 did, and then we'll see version 10 did quite better. Okay, here we go. Coming up to some of these turns here. Okay, it slows down. Not bad. Let's see how it handles this crest. Oh, a little close to that line. And bouncing back and forth here, goes over that line. I don't know if that was any better. Maybe a little more controlled and not as ping-pongy, but it still touches the line. So version 9, like version 8, was still going too fast through this section, and here's version 10. As you recall in previous versions, it's really gone through some of these areas. I think there's an area coming up where it really got outside the lanes and onto the shoulder and even across the center line. Here it looks like it's really slowing down preemptively, and there's a little crest here where it's hard to see. We're going to get close to that center line and ping-ponging a bit, but it's aggressively slowing down to stay within the lines. This is much different behavior. So it stayed within the line. So let's take a look at both versions side by side. We've got our max speed set to 60 miles per hour or 97 kilometers an hour, and we want to see how Autopilot regulates its speed as it enters this first curve that goes to the right and you can't see around the bend. And you can see that with that curve off in the distance, version 10 on top is already starting to decelerate. Version 9 is still going full speed. And we can see that version 9 does start decelerating as it enters the curve. It gets a little behind itself, but does okay and maintains within the lines decently. Now let's take a look how version 10 does. It's already slowing down and aggressively decelerating as it enters this curve, all the way down to 47 miles per hour or about 75 kilometers an hour. And so there's about a 10 mile an hour or 16 kilometer an hour difference in speed, but they seem to be taking roughly the same line. Version 9 will go on, and it actually is accelerating as it enters this crest, which isn't quite the best thing to do. All the way up back to maximum speed. Version 10, let's see how it does. It also is accelerating as well, but not as much. And here's a dangerous section because these curves really do come up quickly. You can see that version 9 is going full speed. It's ping-ponging, getting behind itself, and it does not seem to slow down except until the very end when it's honestly too late. And that was a little bit more controlled than V8, but not much. Version 10, you can see it takes a similar line, but it's aggressively slowing down through these curves, responding to it, and staying within the lines much better. So it looks like version 10 is much more responsive to decelerate for the curves that it sees. And next up is that big sort of dog leg left that you can see in the map display. Here the 30 mile per hour turn, slowing down way ahead of that. It does give a warning, which is new since last time, but slows down for this left turn. Maybe taking this a little faster and kind of riding this middle line a little bit. And then the quick right-hand left. Does that very smoothly. Last time it gave a warning, it got concerned. And now let's see how version 10 does. And so here is the 30 mile per hour curve and slowing down way ahead of this as before, probably due to mapping and GPS. Going to take this pretty slow, definitely at a safe speed. It doesn't go all the way down to the speed advisory. Well, in this case, maybe it did. So this is quite slow. I feel like this is slower than last time. It's hugging the center lane, which I don't like. So for version 10, it seems to be more predisposed to hug that inside of the curve. This tight left before was no problem, even at faster speed in version 9. Here it took that really a lot slower. So Seems to be a lot more cautious, safer, though probably a little, slower than, definitely slower than most human drivers would take these turns. Okay, let's take a look at both versions next to each other, and we'll start with version 9, and you can see that it's going about our set max speed as we come through these very mild curves. That's probably okay. And then as we pass the speed sign, it does start decelerating, and you definitely want to decelerate way ahead here because that curve you can't see around the corner. So it gets down to about 47 miles per hour or 75 kilometers an hour. Now here's version 10 already slowing for these mild curves just a tad. As you can see, slowing even before it hits the sign, but when it does, it's also decelerating pretty rapidly. And as it enters this curve, we're going about 36 miles per hour. So again, about a 10 mile per hour or 16 kilometer per hour difference in these turns. So version 9 with a little warning, it's probably going a little too fast. It is decelerating here, and as we come into this long sustained curve, it gets down to about 48 kilometers an hour, but really hugging that inside line too much. And then version 10 enters at a slower speed. It could go a little faster here, but certainly this is okay. As we enter this sustained curve, we get all the way down to the actual speed advisory, which I know it doesn't seem that slow in the video, but it really is much slower than most vehicles would go. And again, similar to version 9, it's still hugging that inside line on these sustained curves a little too much. So I'm not noticing a huge difference in the line that it's taking. That's something that I've really been wanting to see. I'll talk a little bit about that a little later in the video. But version 10 does seem to be looking further ahead to slow down aggressively for tight curves, which is great. It is much slower through sustained curves. It would be nice if it accelerated faster out of those curves. Now, the final section is that downhill area where Autopilot has a quick left that it has to handle, and last time it disengaged. Let's take a look at version 9 first. A little bit of a straightaway, and now a crest, and the 40 mile per hour turn, left-right. Here we go, slowing down as it comes into these turns, touches the middle line a little bit, going downhill. Like to see it slow down here. It is starting to slow up, and we got a warning to take over, so I'm now manually driving. That's new. Let's see if we can re-engage Autopilot. We can. Now version 10. Got a little S-curve section here coming up, and with these hills it's kind of hard to see over the crest. Let's see how Autopilot does. Slowing down ahead of this. I think this is where it had trouble last time, really slowing down. And we've got this downhill section. Here we go. Make sure hands are near the wheel. Tight curve up here, downhill, slowing down, decelerating, really slowing down, and able to stay within the lines. I think that it did handle that. Now this goes a little too slow. I wish it would speed up here, but really much safer. So let's look at the final side-by-side comparison, both versions entering at the same speed, and you can see that version 9 is not slowing down through this downhill alternating curve section. And at this point you really want to be slowing down. And so let's take a look at version 10, entering about the same speed, about 96 kilometers an hour. Going pretty fast, but as you get to this point where it can't see around the bend, it is decelerating, which makes all the difference. And so version 9 is going a little too fast. You can see that it's starting to ping pong. It's getting behind the curves, still maintaining a pretty high speed downhill, and that's not good. You really want to be slowing down here, but too late, and it gives the warning that it doesn't think it's going to be able to stay within the lanes. Now let's look at how version 10 does. So already starting to slow, and you can see throughout these curves it's decelerating gradually, staying well within the line, so that's good. Speeds up through this straightaway here a little bit, but again, we're going downhill, and as it sees this curve up ahead, it decelerates rapidly, all the way down to 50 miles per hour. for about 80 kilometers an hour, and you can see about a 12-kilometer-hour difference in speed. That's all it takes in order to be able to navigate that tight curve safely. And this is happening all the time whenever you drive, so it's probably not due to geotagged mapping. It's probably actually the vision system seeing the curves of the road. But sometimes it's a little too sensitive. And also, as I said before, it'd be great if it goes a little faster through sustained curves and a little faster to speed up as it's coming out of those curves. And as I was looking at these side-by-side videos, I didn't notice that there was a significant difference in the line that it was taking. So predicting where the road is going off into the distance and where the lane lines are curving towards is one thing the Tesla is doing already pretty well. But picking a line is quite nuanced. You know, it depends on your speed, whether things are going downhill. And that may change if another vehicle is encroaching in your lane. So a lot of nuances there. This is probably a much harder challenge than it may initially seem. But we may see some significant improvements in the near future because, according to Elon Musk, this is one of the two things that the Autopilot team is really focused on right now. Here's what he said on the investor call in October of 2019.
You know, and obviously we kind of have the two sides of it. We've highway autopilot, and we've got Summon, which is sort of low speed and parking lots and that kind of thing. Now we need and we're working on solving the intermediate portion, which is traffic lights and stop signs, and navigating through windy roads in windy, narrow roads in suburban neighborhoods. That's the focus right now.
So super excited to see what improvements will be coming up in the near future. And also the impact of Hardware 3. It seems like it's been rolling out to a few cars. I do have the full self-driving package, so I'm looking forward to, and I'll let you know when I get my hardware upgraded from 2.5 to 3. Here is the link to the full unedited drive. Thanks for sticking with me in this analysis and coming along for a drive. As always, I enjoyed having you along. Have a really great day, and see you in the next video.